But I remember I would meet with folks like you, CEOs of our customers all the time, back in the early days, and they'd be like, how do we grow as fast as Marketo? Right? We want what you guys have and kind of that whole growth. And without that inbound piece to it, it was always going to be a slog. It was always going to be kind of a fight to drive the demand.
Yes.
Whereas it seemed easy for Marketo because we had that extra layer that was coming to us. So how did we get that? Right? How did we get that extra layer kind of inbound? And I think it's the core of what we did when we were very small, and early. And fundamentally, as I said, we had the right product in the right market with the right positioning. So market, arguably, we got lucky. Hopefully, it was part of the thought process when we were starting the company. But marketing automation had been around for a long time, had not been very popular. We had a terrible time raising money because everybody had seen, oh, nobody wants to invest in marketing technology. But software as a service had become mainstream and accepted. And so it was the right time for SaaS-enabled marketing automation, right? We had, and I think this is a great feature in any market, we had a competitor that was large enough to help create awareness of the category, but was also eminently beatable. So not the 500-pound gorilla, but the 98-pound chimp. And this was Eloqua, company that you probably have heard of. And so Eloqua had done a great job of telling everybody, you need this stuff. But they had a reputation of being complicated and expensive, right? So we were able to position ourselves very early as being affordable and easy to use. So it's like that, but without any of those problems.
Yep.
And honestly, that was probably the single most important thing that helped to drive our growth. Was we got that right market, that we were able to draft off of that, especially in the early days, but with a very differentiated message, so that way stuff came to us.
But but two questions on that. So positioning against was very helpful as the market grew. But you got to get into the deal. Right, I can position against a Salesforce for as long as I want, right?
If nobody's ever
get in the deal,
yeah.
Right?
Which
so there's more to the story than positioning.
Which leads to the second thing that we
right?
did, which was we invested heavy and early in content and content marketing. I started writing our blog before we wrote a single line of code, and by the time we actually released the product, I had already started to build a network of people who kind of had heard of us, right, and had known and knew about us, and ultimately that blog gave us search engine rankings. Back in 06, 07, frankly, search engine optimization was easier. You could hack it, if you will, and I was able to get pretty top rankings on, some interesting keywords. I mean, we were #1 ranked for B2B marketing for, frankly, as long as we wanted it, right? And that helped kind of bring.
Did that account for a majority or a high proportion? Was that your largest
that general
chunk of
inbound
customers?
Yeah,
from content marketing.
Well, I can't say exclusively just from organic
largest,
search,
maybe.
But people finding us through these different things. But that ties into word of mouth, and
for sure.
Obviously you read my blog and you like it. Maybe you know our customer, but you tell your friend.
Yep.
That kind of all ultimately works together. So long story short, in the early days, right? I think the most important thing for head of marketing is going to be somebody who's going to help you figure out the positioning, the buyer personas, the message, and then maybe ultimately drive that to the content. Now, at Marketo, we were lucky because we had that in a founder, right? And I would hope in many cases, very early on, that set of things will come from one of the founders, unless it's a purely technical team.
Got it.
Right? So if you have it on your founders, great. Don't hire anybody yet. Do it. If you don't have it in the founders, you should probably hire something like what Steve Blank calls, a head of customer development, right? Or something where just like you have product development, you have customer development, and they start iterating through that kind of search for position, message, set of stuff.
Yep.
And I would say the point there is you're trying to get to that point. This is what we were talking about before we turned the mics on, where it doesn't feel like you're slogging and fighting to get to that kind of next piece of revenue, if you will, where it starts to kind of, quote unquote, product market fit.
Yep.